Hello everybody, my name is Mind and welcome back to the Aeroteam YouTube channel. Now it's been a little while since we've done one of these time lapses along with us building something, and I talk about the tips and tricks that we use to make our builds. So I thought, why don't we do one, and I wanted to do one on my absolute favorite car of probably all time, well, road car. And that would be the Mclaren Senna, which you can see us building in the background. Now I worked on this with Morales, and this is in 1.5:1 scale. This thing took us about 35 to 40 minutes to build, and this video is sped up around 11 times normal speed. Now for this video itself, I'm going to basically be telling you a few tips and tricks on the build process itself, and then after this time lapse, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the key differences and the things we really try to improve on between the two iterations of our Mclaren Senna, because you can actually check out our old Mclaren Senna in our old Supercar showcase video. It's a tough thing to say. Anyway, basically, for the build process itself, 1.5:1, it's gonna be scaled almost spot on. With cars, it's a bit harder sometimes because in general, for supercars, you're probably gonna be at 1.5 slabs tall, although the Mclaren Senna's a tiny bit taller, so we took a little creative discrepancy, or however you want to call it, and made it 2 blocks tall. Now, in terms of building, we've really tried to improve quite a bit with the techniques we use, and so you can see as we come around the back of the Mclaren Senna, I'm really just trying to nail down some new technique or idea that we can use to really hash out that rear wing. I ended up settling for just a simple trap door and a carpet on top, but you can see I went through loads of different iterations, stairs, armor stands, and all that. Along the sides, you can see we're using some new stuff in our Aeroteam 2.0 texture pack, which we're on Dev 13 on the public launch, but we've got way more coming up in the future. We're using loads of different blocks and styles, and we're incorporating them anywhere or everywhere. And we're really just doing trial and error, and that's the biggest thing with the building process. Especially with cars, because cars are so small, it's not like you're going through step by step. It's really just you build the thing and then you sort of tweak it everywhere you go. So different colors, blocks, etc, etc. Anyway, with that basically done on the whole process of how we built it, let's go ahead and take a look at the two different cars. Here is the old Mclaren Senna in front of us. Not necessarily bad at all, really. You can see it's still got the papaya orange, or whatever orange Mclaren is using for the Sennas, all the way around. And it's got fairly good body shaping, especially with the Mclaren Senna's sort of famous like glass in the door, where you can see that bit right there. It's got pretty good body shaping, especially with the rear wing right here. But one thing it really lacks is just that sculpted look. The body shape is good, but it's not necessarily clean, and it's also a bit, the term I would use is blocky. I know it's a bit ironic for a Minecraft because that's the whole game, but it's really just slabs and a few stairs. There's not really anything creative with buttons or any other like banners or Minecraft player hats. It's simple, that's all it is. Not to say there's anything wrong with that, but there is a lot we could improve, and well, that's what we did. So we're going to come over here and take a look at our brand new Mclaren Senna. So right off the bat, you can tell this thing looks way different, and if I'm honest with you, you can really tell that this one is a Senna itself. Now, as we come around, you'll notice a few key things. We've littered this build with buttons and banners, and we've also used wheels, but these aren't necessarily wheels. These are actually, if we take a look, chorus flowers. We've retextured them in the Aeroteam resource pack to represent just pure black wool blocks, and I think that's added quite a bit to the game, something that we've just hadn't had before. It really allows us to add a more natural look to wheels while still being in that realm of just pure Minecraftness. I know, weird. Anyway. As for the build itself, we'll start at the front because we used a lot of techniques here. Wallace, in his car collection, which you can actually see down there, has been unbelievably fond of using player skulls. We can take a look at how he did it down here. Basically, it's just a bunch of armor stands spawned everywhere. And on the top, you put a player skull, and we have a plugin that allows us to search a huge, massive database for different player skulls, and that allows us to put them in and sort of mold and shape builds. They do unrender, but for cars, it's not that big of an issue, at least in my opinion. So you can really see how we managed to get the floor on the underside using the player skulls while also still being able to place loads of blocks through here. Something that we were able to do because we used the skulls is place a banner. Had this been a normal block, well, that banner would be gone, and I feel like they add quite a bit. Something that we miss on this car that we just didn't have is really the underfloor detailing. In modern supercars, you can see the floor from quite a few angles, and especially on the Mclaren Senna, round to the front you can see the splitter, and on the side there's a bit of that there. We didn't have that here, so we take advantage of using the block on the bottom. It's not necessarily the car itself, but it allows us to get a bit of detail that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. And that's sort of what we did up front here. Now, the front. The McLaren has a very, very classic look, where it's very angled and pointed in the front. We achieved this somewhat here. You can tell this is classic Minecraft. It's just squared up and rectangular at the front. We sort of tried to do our best by using stairs, however, I mean, it just doesn't achieve it. While over here, because we used player heads and banners, we were really able to get that angled look. And McLarens don't necessarily drop off the nose as far as they do, or as far as we modeled here, so we really just leveled it off here and came straight. That allowed us to also get in the front air intake right there, and then on the sides you see the other more modeling around there with the banners. Now with the banners, we were actually able to use some banner textures with the sort of like half and half orange and black block, and that allows a pretty cool and unique looking shape around here. We really maximized the use of all of our pack in this build, and you can see that right here because we're actually using some powered rails which have a unique orange trapdoor texture. One of the advantages of using our block or pack is we are able to get in loads and loads of other special and unique blocks that aren't necessarily against the rules of Minecraft, but it just like opens up a new realm of opportunities. Anyway, so you see that a lot here, and that's something that we didn't have on this car. We simply used normal carpet right here. Now, I think we actually would have had the opportunity when we originally built this. I can't remember, but I believe this was when version 2 was right in its infancy. So we really just hadn't taken advantage of it. Another thing that's going to be different on our newer cars versus our older ones is going to be the rear view mirrors. And you can see them right here and here. Originally, we just used tripwire hooks, but really that doesn't look like a mirror. Most mirrors on cars are going to be very round and sculpted and pretty small as well. So we try to maximize that right here and get the colors accurate as well. One thing we also missed on this car was the McLaren logo on the front. And we achieved that pretty well right here, just with a simple stone button. I think it looks pretty well. Now, one thing that came right over from this build over to the other one is the front one of the air intakes. Now, on this build, we've got it in black, but we realized that with this livery, the carbon fiber is more of a grayish texture, so we've just simply got it like that there. Now, moving further back, you'll notice one thing. The cockpit and the actual window itself is super square here, and it's nothing like we have over there. Now, we still have the air intake on the top, but we were able to get much more accurate with the teardrop shape of the McLaren Senna, as you can see right here, especially around the back, because it's got a super interesting sculpted look. I assume it's purely for aerodynamics. You might notice one thing we've been really fond of on our cars lately is using this black brick end stone texture from our 2.0 pack. Oops, didn't mean to take a screenshot. From our 2.0 pack as our windows, and this allows us to basically differentiate a bit more with the different textures and such, and allows us to get our windows a bit more spot on, and so that's another thing we've implemented since this version of the Senna. Moving on, there's also a key thing here. The Senna has the massive window in the side of the door, something that we sort of emulated here, but I think we did a pretty poor job of it. So clearly, we've got reused banners here and there. Well, that one's actually not for the window, but right there, to basically emulate that look of the window. And we use an upside down trapdoor with the rails, basically to keep the orange line to separate the upper, like the cockpit windows from the lower side door window. And around here, you also notice we use a lot more sort of stair shaping with world edit tricks and such, and this allows us to sort of get a better look for the air intakes that run along the side of the Senna for airflow and such. Anyway, coming around, more things that have changed is a lot more sculpting around the back. The Senna has a really interesting shape where it comes up a bit and then straight back down, and we sort of had that here, except it didn't come up, but it just went straight down. Here, well, we've got it, and it looks pretty good in my opinion, especially using the slabs and the trap doors. Now, the biggest thing that I think is the best change between these two versions is the rear end of this thing. The rear wing on this old one had a super, well, you can see, a super thick, slab thick rear wing. Here, we've transitioned over to a simple trap door. Now, one thing I do miss is we weren't able to get sort of the sides of the rear wing. It just wasn't gonna look right, but this thing looks a lot better compared to the old one, a lot thinner and much more realistic. We're also able to get a much more realistic, the pylons for the wing. That's because we used a trap, or fence gate, that's the right word, for it right here. And that fence gate allowed us to get the two different ones versus just having one ugly one right there. We also have the exhaust right here, and that looks very nice versus not having one right here. Now, the exhaust also has a diffuser under it, and that sort of helps the shape as well, especially when we use the upside down out inward facing I don't know what they're called, but we use the stairs right there. And then we also use our red buttons in the new pack to emulate the rear brake lights. Now that's basically it to compare the two builds, and you can see we've improved quite a bit, and I hope you guys got a few tips and some ideas of where you could possibly improve, such as using player heads or really trying to sculpt out builds and using banners and stuff like that. And maybe you can show us some of the things you've tried implementing on our Discord server where you can join down below. Anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. My name is Mind. I'll hopefully be seeing you very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.